Hello, everyone. Brother Al McClaney with this week's stewardship video. And as always, before we go too far, no advice should be seen as recommendation or endorsement, as I am not a licensed financial advisor and this is for educational purposes only. You want to do your own research. And as I'm doing this video, I am wearing my Polo 105 years old anniversary shirt for St. John. We are celebrating this weekend our 105 years of being established as a church and wearing that polo. And it's just, that's a wonder of God that a church has been around, specifically St. John, for 105 years. So, this video, you see, I'm starting off with an image that's David versus the giant, Goliath. And we always remember David with this feat, but before he got to being able to slay a giant, he did some work in what we would call pasture work. And where did I get that from? I'm not smart enough to come up with it, but Dr. Daryl Fielder, who's on staff at our church, attended a revival. And at the revival, Reverend Tolan Morgan said, people want giant platforms but fail to properly manage small pastures. And, I see things from a stewardship standpoint. And it took me first to David to say, we always remember, you know, that moment where he defeated the giant, the Philistine, right? And I like First Samuel 17, verse 33 through 37 in the New Living Translation. And this is Saul speaking to David, saying, don't be ridiculous, Saul replied. There's no way you can fight this Philistine and possibly win. You're only a boy, and he's been a man of war since his youth. But David persisted. I have been taking care of my father's sheep and goats. That's pasture work. He said, when a lion or a bear comes to steal a lamb from the flock, I go after it with a club and rescue the lamb from its mouth. If the animal turns on me, I catch it by the jaw and club it to death. I have done this to both lions and bears, and I'll do it to this pagan Philistine too, for he has defiled the armies of the living God. The Lord who rescued me from the claws of the lion and the bear, again, this is in the pasture, will rescue me from this Philistine. Saul finally consented. All right, go ahead, he said, and may the Lord be with you. And so me and Reverend Dr. Fielder were having a conversation about, before the big things, maybe, starting a business or fill in the blank. Are we doing the things we need to do in that pasture, which is often unseen? Are we managing that small pasture experience and the tasks that we need to do in the pasture before we're slaying the giant, slaying that whether it be something like start a business. And so it also took me to these scriptures in Proverbs, which talk about preparing your field before you build a house. Proverbs 24, verse 27 says, put first things first, prepare your work outside and get it ready for yourself in the field, and afterward build your house and establish a home. The Living Bible translation says, develop your business first before building your house. And the Message Bible says, first plant your fields, then build your barn. And so I just take this as, you know, are you doing those things that need to be done, whether they're small, not seen by others, to prepare for the larger moments or the larger tasks? For example, you want to purchase a house, and this one of the examples being used here. Have you put your finances in order? Do you have a budget? Have you created a budget in such a way that it's the amount of the mortgage and lived on that maybe 6 months? Do you have an emergency fund? Do you have 3 to 6 months put away for emergencies? Have you paid down your consumer debt? Have you started paying down your debt? Are you on a spending plan or a budget? Do you have the max going to your 401k up to the match? Those are the type of things. No one's seeing that. They'll see the house when you purchase it, but they didn't see all the things that you were doing in the pasture. It may have been small things, or it may have been things that are mundane and routine before you built that house or before you bought that car. Did you uh, go on a budget? Did you go and look at multiple dealerships? Did you have enough to pay cash for it versus having to finance? All of these things are pasture work, is what I would consider. So with that, and by the way, I hope to go further with the teaching next week. We'll see if the Lord says the same. But oh my, we are in the thick of earnings season. So last week we had the financials report. Market didn't like it, and we'll show it on that ending slide as we always do of the graphic. But this week we have another market moving week, just like last week when the financials were reporting. We've got Halliburton. That's going to give us, what's going on in the oil world as we look and see gas prices going up. You say, DR Horton, that's in housing. Air Alaska, not a big airline, but gives us some insight into how fuel prices are affecting the airline. Here's 3M, that's going to be industrial. There's GM, right? Automotive. We've got GE Vernova. I don't know if this is the one for the aeronautical, because that would be insight into the war and the military industry of purchases. And there's Tesla. Now here's some huge. I mean, technology. And we say Tesla's an auto company. No, it's a technology company. So you got Alphabet, which is Google. You got IBM, which was like people were they made an announcement that was like, wow, what happened? Texas Instruments, we got Tesla, that's huge. Coming out of that, we got Nokia, we got Intel. Intel has it's not a huge, but the government has a stake in Intel. So that's gonna be interesting. We got American Airlines. I mean, so it goes on and on. Verizon, American Express. We've got Tractor Supply Company that's giving us into the industrial and then it was AT&T. I mean, so it is loaded this week. Pulte, that's in housing. So all this week, there's just almost every day, there's a major company that's reporting. And again, the market is going to respond and react. It's more the market reacts, not responds to it. So here's year to date. We haven't looked at this in a while. Year to date, even with all the up and down, all the volatility, if you were just in the S&P, you're still up 9%. If you're in, say, healthcare, which is defensive, you're still up 4%. Two areas that are down: communication services and consumer discretionary. The technology, this is misleading because here you go. Last 2 weeks, you're down 2%. For year to date, it's still up 22%. But you've been, if you're like me, you've been feeling that QQQ, which is technology exposure, going down. So in the last, let's see, couple of weeks, what's been up? Energy, right? Because we know the war effort is ramping back up again. We can see gas prices, the Strait of Hormuz being closed, open, right? Gas prices and oil prices are staying elevated. So if the number one sector so far year to date is energy, right? Followed by, believe it or not, still technology. As much as it's gone down, it's right there. Then industrial, which would make sense because that's the factories, right? The building infrastructure, also refineries, chemical-based things as in industrials. And then after that, materials, which goes right along with industrials. But we still also have the utilities still chugging along. So here is I take this newsletter called Traders Almanac. And one of the things that piqued my interest, and I'm doing a screenshot of it, of this newsletter, NASDAQ seasonal MACD, and that's just an indicator, sell signal triggers. So today, MACD sell indicator applied to NASDAQ is negative. So this particular newsletter is saying that it says Nasdaq's best 8 months has come to an end. We are now issuing our seasonal MACD sell signal for Nasdaq, which is technology. And it goes on to say it gives some specific recommendations. Again, do your own research. It says right here, cash, money market, and short duration bond ETFs like SHV and SGOV are likely to be the least risky during the remainder of the worst months this year. And here's the portfolio that they have, and you can see the one it's got QQQ as a sale, and it's got the Russell, which is small cap, as sale. Then it's got holding bonds, and then they're going to buy some short treasury bonds, and there's the symbol and some sort, yeah, and those are 0 to 3 month SGov, and then SHV is the short treasury bonds also, and TLT as a whole, that's 20-year treasury bond, and then the aggregate bond exchange traded fund AGG, they got that as a whole, and then the Vanguard total bond market. So you can see it's very fixed instrument heavy. So it's trying to, again, do your own research when it comes to your portfolio. Maybe you want to look at technology and say, you know what, it's at a low and I'm going to go in and buy right now. But that's a long-term view. So with that, this is what we've been talking about. Here's QQQ. That's ugly. And we're clearly now in a downtrend. All right, that is trending down. We got lower highs and higher lows. I mean lower lows and lower highs. See, definitely going down. And then this last couple of this week, just major sell off. SPY same way, but the Dow, which is 30 stocks, has been actually holding it up better than QQQ. You can see, as we just looked at, QQQ is very prominent downtrend. SPY in a downtrend, but not as much because it's been kind of just in a channel for a while. But now there was some selling off on Friday and last week. So and as we know, and then here's the rise in, I usually don't point this out, but rise in volatility. Same thing with QQQ. So that's this week's stewardship video. I hope that it blessed you. And again, for St. John Baptist Church, happy 105. And with that, we'll see you next week. Stewardship video. Remember, Jesus is Lord, therefore He's the owner, and we follow His principles. And following His principles, that could be pastor work, as we were talking about. See you next week.